So that guy I met on eHarmony? Yeah. We're out together last night and I step off a curb and snap, heel breaks right off my shoe.
Oh no.
So I say, hell with it, take them off so I'm barefoot, and you'll never guess.
What?
He leans over, takes off his shoes and socks, and now we're both...
You're joking.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.
Finding someone that understands you is hard because you're human, and there's a lot of different humans out there. eHarmony helps you find someone you can be yourself with. You think no one would understand mourning a plant like it's a loved one, or singing made-up songs to your dog, but that's the type of person eHarmony helps you find. Someone who makes you feel seen, heard, and understood. Get started today on eHarmony. Get who gets you.
There's an effect that you may or may not have heard of that could be playing a major role in how well you age. I think it's a major reason it's normal to slowly stop living before you die. I also think that knowing about it can help you use it to your benefit rather than to your detriment. The key is awareness. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 151. You didn't realize this effect is affecting your health outcomes. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, my friend, and welcome to another episode. Thank you so much for being here today. You are so awesome. I hope somebody else has told you that today, too. How is your board of directors? Did you create one? Did you download the free template and drop in pictures of your board members? Referring to them regularly can elevate your decisions and your daily considerations. It gives you an edge that most people don't have. Grab your free Canva template at www.healthcouragecollective.com/board if you haven't already. Now, let's imagine that you're back in school and how well you do in the classes, your grades, will directly determine how good your health will be in your future. Straight A's will mean very low risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, cancer, chronic pain, and immobility. Above average strength, capacity, and opportunity to experience the world. The lower your grades, the more pain and struggle will be in your future. Lots of costly disease management and loss of independence. Mediocre grades will mean an average slow rot to your life as you age. Now imagine that the, quote, authorities, whoever that is, tells your teacher that some of your classmates have been proven to be exceptionally intelligent and others not so bright. Would it matter to you which group you were in? The ones that weren't mentioned, the proven dimwits, or the rising stars? Other than it feels good to be special, it shouldn't matter, right? You'll each decide the amount of work to put in and be graded on your efforts and merits regardless. What if the authorities just picked those students to mention to the teachers at random? You would think then it would matter even less. This is important because I think it can play a big role in your actual long-term health, like in real life. Don't underestimate its ability to tip the odds in favor of you having more years lived in good health in your future. You may have heard of this famous study before. Some critics question its value, but here we go. Robert Rosenthal and Lenore Jacobson gave elementary school students in California an IQ test at the beginning of the school year. They kept the results strictly secret, but they told the teachers the names of their students that had test results that showed that they were expected to be intellectual bloomers that year, doing much better than expected in comparison to their classmates. The researchers gave the same IQ test at the end of the school year. As expected, the gifted kids in first and second grades showed significantly higher increases in learning and success than their classmates over the course of the school year. The interesting thing was that those labeled intellectual bloomers were kids chosen completely at random. What the teachers were told about ability and potential was complete nonsense. The conclusion of the study was that unconsciously and unknowingly, the teachers treated the students differently. They expected more of the gifted students, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The self-fulfilling prophecy is named the Pygmalion Effect after the Greek myth of Pygmalion, a sculptor who fell so in love with his sculpture that it came to life. The Pygmalion Effect is that high expectations lead to improved performance and low expectations lead to poor performance. There are additional studies showing the Pygmalion effect in non-classroom environments. One showed that nursing home nurses were told that some patients would progress more quickly in their rehabilitation than others. These randomly chosen patients demonstrated less depression and required less hospitalization than their nursing home peers. Another showed that therapists who were told some alcoholic patients were motivated and some were unmotivated had a lower rehab dropout rate among the so-called motivated patients. Another study in the Israeli army in 1982 told instructors that some trainees showed exceptional leadership potential. That randomly chosen group of trainees outperformed everyone else on 4 objectively measured military tests. Dozens of experiments show that at work, when leaders hold high expectations, employees generally work harder, learn more, and perform better. We are strong, independent women, and we might not like to admit that our performance and results are based on the expectations of those around us, but they very much can be. If you're around people with low expectations of you, you'll fall to those standards. If you're around people with high expectations for you, you'll rise to those standards. As Benjamin Hardy points out in Be Your Future Self Now, we are all driven by our goals, but our goals are often subconsciously fed to us by our environment. Our environment can create and control us. In fact, social media is designed to subconsciously influence and direct people's behaviors, desires, identities, and interests. That's huge and scary. Someone else is pulling our puppet strings, directing us to certain identities, interests, and behaviors. It seems a little disheartening until you remember that you can create and control your environment, but you have to consciously cultivate an awareness of your environment's influence on your outcomes. You don't have to self-identify as a connoisseur of generative art, claim to like the eclectic grandpa look, or spend hours shopping for the most you stickers to personalize your credit card if you don't want to. But social media will try to get you to. And you don't have to accept the normal limits of menopause and aging if you don't want to. But first you need to know what all the people around you are expecting for you and how that influences you. Just because a certain experience or decline in functions is statistically likely doesn't mean you can't purposefully tip the odds in favor of you being in the 5% of women who sidestep that experience. Can you imagine how your health outcomes would be different if you worked with a healthcare provider who expected you to excel and naturally viewed you with the standard of a healthy 20-year-old in mind versus that of an average 50-year-old? What if you worked with a coach with high standards for what is acceptable as you transition into your better years? Grit expert Angela Duckworth says that grit is much easier to develop in environments where high performance is the expected norm. We talked all about that back in episode 105. Science says that the most effective way to change is to join a group where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. When you're around people for whom it's normal for you to have to drink 3 Cokes to be able to make it through the day, have to stay up late to be able to get ahead at work, people who dread having to go to the gym, see parking farther away as a punishment, view cupcakes as rewards, and are only able to identify 3 emotions on any given day, those things feel normal to you. But when you expose yourself to more elite ways of seeing, thinking, feeling, and acting, overflowing energy, strength, stamina, a healthy relationship with food, equanimity, abundance, you name it, can become the norm. Strength, endurance, excitement, and curiosity in your 70s can be the norm. That doesn't mean your life will always be perfect or easy, but when the standard of normal shifts, your trajectory shifts, your expectations shift. Think of all the people who have expectations for you for how your life should go and what's normal as a woman ages. Your spouse, your family, your friends, neighbors, coworkers, healthcare providers, teachers, etc. If they all expect you to be normal and for aging to suck and then suck some more, that has a Pygmalion effect on you. So we've got the Pygmalion effect, and we also have the Gollum effect. My precious. I've never read or watched Lord of the Rings, actually, but I know who Gollum is from the Big Bang Theory. Anyway, the Gollum effect is when our progress is held back by others' low expectations for us. I'm not really sure what it has to do with Gollum, but I'm sure it's something. It's particularly pronounced among marginalized groups of people, which is not cool. In his book, Hidden Potential, Adam Grant talks about research by Samir Nurmohamed that confirms something awesome that you might be feeling deep down inside your badass soul. So, Samir did a study where people had to click moving circles with their mouse and were randomized to receive either high expectations like, you will blow others away in this task, or low expectations like, others are going to blow you away in this task. The impact of the expectations depended on who was giving them. High expectations only led to greater effort and performance if they came from someone knowledgeable about the task. But if the observer lacked credibility and was uninformed about the task, the effect was reversed. People ended up trying harder and doing better when they were doubted rather than encouraged. You've felt this, right? Samir calls it the underdog effect. So as you think about how you process others' expectations, consider their credibility. If they're clueless, their doubt and low expectations can actually fuel your progress. It becomes a challenge. I'll show you. Another way, being aware of your environment can help propel you toward what you want. In his book, Hidden Potential, Adam Grant also talks about novelists. He says that at the time he was writing his book, 4 of the 5 finalists for the PEN/Hemingway Award for a debut novel, which is super prestigious, 4 of them attended or taught in Masters of Fine Arts programs at universities. He says that the power of an MFA program isn't in its somewhat minimal writing instruction, but in the elite community they provide to the developing novelist. He says, quote, when you spend 2 years reading and critiquing and admiring work by other young writers pushing their prose in new and interesting directions, your standards for what writing can achieve sharpen. End quote. When the people you associate with have high standards and the collective taste of the group is elevated, more possibilities and nuances show up, and you can't help but improve yourself. We all know that famous Jim Rohn quote that says you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. We can intuit that there's some truth to that, and a lot of it has to do with expectations of what's real. I hope I'm doing an adequate job of convincing you to curate who you allow into your life and into your assumptions of reality, because it matters. Choose people who expect you to be an intellectual bloomer, so to speak, or an aging bloomer. What? That sounds awful and way too much like boomer. What can we name someone who gets healthier and stronger as the years go by? A sophisticated dynamo, a budding dominator, an incipient powerhouse. I'll have to keep thinking about that. Those are all terrible. In the meantime, be cautious about who you invite into your healthcare journey. Find a doctor who expects you to thrive for many more decades and treats you to an elite standard. Normal is not good enough for you. Make sure they know which metrics to base your treatment plan on. Associate with friends or groups of women who expect to maintain high energy levels and remain strong, independent, and sharp, who genuinely enjoy doing the things that keep them that way. Women who demonstrate discipline and act rather than complain. The potential of women who participate in transformational relationships like that is immense. I want that for you and for all the people who depend on your awesomeness. If you'd like to be part of a beta test group of women who meet together to hold each other to high standards and make your desired behaviors the normal behaviors, send me an email at healthcouragecollective@gmail.com and I will see what kind of group we can get going. It would be brand new, but I would love to develop a way that can most effectively put more years lived in good health into your future. But I would need your help to do it. You are awesome. Thank you so much for considering how other people's expectations of you as a midlife woman in the world influence your results and what you can do about it. Next week, we're going to talk about being confident in your 2050 abilities. Until then, be an incipient dynamo who forces others to expect exceptional things of you, and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.